Allahu Ekber ve lillahil hamd. Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. La ilahe illallah. Allahu Ekber. Allahu Ekber ve lillahil hamd. Hazreti Resul-i Ekrem ve Nebi-i Muhterem sallallahu teala aleyhi ve sellem Efendimiz Hazretlerin aziz, pak, münevver, mutahhar ruh şeriflerine selavat-ı şerife getirenlerin ahir ve akıbetleri hayrola. Âl-i ezvacı, tahiret evladı, Resul-i Sabbizin efendilerimizin, sair enbiya-i izam ve Resulü fihan hazıratın ervah şeriflerine, Pirimiz Bilal-ı Habeş radıyallahu anh Efendimizin, Diyar Rum Velisi Emir Sultan el-Buhari, Bani Devleti Ali Osman Gazi Han, SahibulSaif Magazi, Bursa'nın Fatihi Osman Gazi Han, Mazhar-ı Füziyat-ı Rabbaniye Pir Üftade Hazretleri, Şeyh Hacı Muhammed Bahattin Şah Naksibendi el-Buhari, Sahibü'z-Zaman, Kıblet-i İslam, Şeyh Sultan Mevlana Muhammed Nazım Adel el-Hakkani, Kaddesallahu esrarhum hazaratının ve ervahı için, alel husus bu caminin banisi, sahib-el hayrat ve hel hasenat, SahibulSaif Şeyh Abdulkerim el-Kibrisi Rabbani Hazretlerinin ve bugüne kadar içerisinden gelmiş geçmiş İmam Müezzin Kayyum ve cemaatinin ve kahve ehli ivanın ervahı için, Allah rızası için El Fatiha. Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. İnnallâhe ve melâiketehu yusallûne alen-nebi. Ya eyyühellezîne âmenû sallû aleyhi ve sellimû teslîmâ. Allahümme salli ala seyyidina Muhammed ve ala ali seyyidina Muhammed. Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. Eşhedü en la ilahe illallah. Eşhedü en la ilahe illallah. Eşhedü enne Muhammeden Resulullah. Eşhedü enne Muhammeden Resulullah. Hayy ale's-salah. Hayy ale's-salah. Hayy alel-felah. Hayy alel-felah. Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. La ilahe illallah.
Elhamdülillah. Elhamdülillah. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Salatu ve selamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmaîn. Nahmedullah Teala ve nastagfir eşhedü en la ilahe illallah vahdehu la şerike leh. Eşhedü enne seyyidina Muhammeden abduhu ve habibuhu ve resuluh sallallahu aleyhi ve ala alihi ve ezvacihi ve sebitabi hulefâ raşidin mahdi min ba'di. Ve zâlimmeti ala tahkik ve hussanhum alameti hulefâ resulâ ala tahkik. Umara'l mu'minin Hazreti Ebu Bakr ve Osman ve Ali ve la baki sabit tabi'in rüdûnâ ta'ala aleyhim ecmaîn. Ya eyyuhal mu'minu khâzirun. Yetekullah Teala. فإن الله مع الذين تقوا والذين هم محسنون. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praises are due to Allah, Lord of the universe.
Alemlerin Rabbi olan
All praises are due to Allah, who says in the Holy Quran, Allah made the Kaaba the sacred house, a place of security for mankind. And He has made holy the sacred months and the Qurban animals and their decorations. This is so that you may know that Allah knows whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, and that Allah is the knower of all things. Know that Allah is severe in punishment, and that Allah is forgiving and merciful. The duty of the messenger is only to convey the message. Allah knows what you proclaim and what you hide. Say, evil and good are not alike, even though the greater quantity of evil might attract you. So have taqwa, O men of understanding, so that you might be successful.
Salat ve selam kainatın sultanı Allah'ın sevgilisi
Sadakallahu al-Azim.
Efendimiz ve
May all
gözümüzün
peace and blessings be upon the
Seyyidina
Sultan of
Muhammed
creation,
aleyhisselatü
Allah's beloved,
olsun.
our master
Ya
and the
Rabbi,
light of our
Efendimiz
eyes,
Muhammed'e
Sayyidina
sevdiğin
Muhammed
ve razı
aleyhissalatu
olduğun
vesselam.
şekilde salat ve
Ya
selam
Rabbi,
eyle.
bless our master Muhammad aleyhissalatu
Efendimiz
vesselam
Muhammed'e
according
ezelden
to what you love
öncesinden
and what pleases
ebedin
you.
sonuna kadar salat
And
ve
bless our
selam
master Muhammad
sana yakın
for
makamlara
what
ulaştır.
is in the before
verdiğin
eternity
şefaati ve yakın
and
makamlara
what is
ihsan
after
eyle.
eternity.
Sen sözünü muhakkak
Grant
yerine
him
getirirsin.
the near station to you and give him the means of shafaat and the praiseworthy station which you promised him. You do not fail your promise.
Sen benim sultanım, Rabbim
Ya Allah,
ve
I
Efendimiz.
ask you, for
Güvenim
you are
ve
my King,
umudumsun.
Lord
Ancak
and Master,
senden
my
talep
trust and
ederim.
my hope.
Senin
And I ask you by the
mübarek
holiness of the
ayının,
sacred
mübarek
month,
diyarının,
the sacred land,
Müzdelife makamı
station of
ve
Muzdalifa,
Peygamberin
and the
kabri
tomb of your
hürmetine
prophet,
yalvarıyorum.
that you
Senden
grant me
başka
something of
kimsenin
the good,
bilmediği, hayrı
which no one has
lütfetmeni,
knowledge of
senden
except
başka
you,
kimsenin bilmediği
and
şerri
turn
de
evil aside
def
from
etmeni
me,
talep
of which
ediyorum.
none has knowledge
Allah'ım senden
except
talep
you.
eder, yüzümü yine sana dönüyorum.
O Allah, I
Ey
ask of you,
sevgilimiz ya Muhammed,
and turn my
senin
face
hürmetine
towards you by
Rabbimize
means of your
yalvarıyoruz.
beloved one, who is
Efendimiz
chosen
ey
by you.
mübarek Nebi bize
O our
şefaat
beloved
eyle.
one, Ya Muhammad aleyhissalatu vesselam. Through you, we are begging your Lord, so intercede for us with the great Master, O most blessed, pure messenger.
Salat ve selam asıl ailesinin mübarek sahabelerinin üzerine olsun. Özellikle dört Hulefai Raşidin, Hazreti Ebubekir Sıddık, Hazreti Ömer el-Faruk, Hazreti Osman el-Gani, Hazreti Ali el-Murtaza ve son güne dek onları takip edenlerin üzerine olsun. Salat ve selam tarikat-ı aliye meşayihı, en yüksek velilerin üzerinde olsun. Salat ve selam dünyayı adaletle aydınlatan, medeniyeti edeple süsleyen, tarihe Allah ve Resulü ve Evliya'nın kokusuyla boyayan, Ali Osman'ın şanlı sultanlarının üstüne olsun. Allah onları seven ve onurlandıranları bereketlendirsin. Mübarek kanlarıyla suladıkları mübarek topraklardan Allah'a onların makamlarını yükseltmesini talep ediyoruz. Onlardan nefret edenler ise dünya ahiret lanet olsun.
Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber, La ilahe illallah, Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber ve lillah. Amin. Ya yuhal mu'minun.
Ey
believers,
ey iman edenler.
İdul-Adha
Kurban bayramınız mübarek olsun. Bugün
olsun.
bayram günüdür.
Today
Bizlere bu Osmanlı topraklarında, Bursa şehrinde, Anadolu diyarında Osmanlı ecdadımızın gölgesinde durmayı nasip eden Rabbimize şükürler olsun. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil Alemin.
In the shade of our Ottoman ejdad, Elhamdülillahi Rabbil Alemin.
Ey iman edenler! Bu günler müminlerin neşe ve kutlama günleridir. Peygamber Efendimiz Aleyhisselatü Vesselam şöyle buyurur. Arife günü.
The day of Arafat, the day of sacrifice, and the 3 following days of Al-Tashriq are celebrations for the people of Islam. They are days of eating and drinking. Alhamdulillah that we're gathered together in this Jamaat, whether physically or by the heart, to be together to celebrate with the people of Islam. Ahlul Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let us be counted as Ahlul Islam. For the people of Islam, these are days of constant thinking and tafakkur. Because these days do not appear from nothing. We have done so much work to reach these days at the end of the year of Allah. We passed through Ashura and Mawlid and Ghaib and Miraj and Bara'at and Qadir, and now we come to the end of the year to Dhul Hijjah. At the end of the year, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering the believers in the last month, saying, now visit my house, the original house, the first house, Baytullah. All of these holy nights and months bring us back to our originality, to the Kaaba, Baytullah. For so many Muslims, the Kaaba begins with Ibrahim alayhi salam, building the Kaaba with Hazrat Ismail. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran that He ordered Hazrat Ibrahim to raise the foundations of the house. The Mufassirin say that in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing that the Kaaba already was in existence. Because Hazrat Ibrahim was ordered to raise the foundations that were already in existence. So who is the one that laid these foundations originally? Muslims must know that these questions, because within the history of that Kaaba is knowledge that lets man to know himself. The origin of insan, the life of insan, and the future of insan, it is linked to Allah's house. The head and the forehead of our father Adam alayhi salam, they were created from the land where the Kaaba Sharif was going to be built. Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi is saying that when Adam Baba was sent to the earth, he complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he was very lonely. At that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to build the Kaaba as a connection point between the heavens and the earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about this incident in the Holy Quran, saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Verily, the first house established for humanity was at Bakr, blessed and guidance for the worlds. And at that time, our father Adam alayhi salam constructed the Kaaba as the Awal Bayt, established for the worship of Allah, the one true Ilah. After he built it, he circled it in Tawaf. And at that time, the angels came to greet him. And they opened another secret of this ancient house, saying that they were the ones who had built the Kaaba, and that made the Tawaf first, 2,000 years even before Adam alayhi salam. This is the holy house that we are remembering and respecting these days. And that house, it remained on the earth to be visited by the prophets, the lovers of Allah. Even when the flood, the ship of Nuh alayhi salam came to the land of Bakr and circled the Kaaba in Tawaf 7 times. But at that time, the angels carried the Kaaba up to the heavens. Just one small piece of the Kaaba remained, and it was that foundation which Hazrat Ibrahim was later commanded to rebuild. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam rebuilt this original house, this ancient house, this holy house. Upon the foundation, it had been built. The absolute and total devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Kaaba, this building that was the center of the earth, was raised as a symbol of the worship of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about this in the Holy Quran, saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and mention, Ya Muhammad alayhi wasallam, when we prepared for Ibrahim the place of the holy house, saying, do not associate anything as a partner to me, and purify my house for those who make tawaf, and for those who stand, and those who bow, those who make prostration, and proclaim to mankind the Hajj. They will come to you on foot and on every lean camel. They will come from every distant pass, so that they may witness things that are beneficial to them, and remember the name of Allah on the known days over the Qurban animals that He has bestowed upon them. So eat of them and feed the poor, unfortunate ones. Then let them complete the rituals prescribed for them, fulfill their promises, and perform tawaf around the ancient house. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam kept his promise to Allah, and he rebuilt the Kaaba with these intentions. And he passed the mission to his son Hazrat Ismail, who kept his promise. As is the habit of this world, there came a time where evil began to bring dirtiness into the presence of what is clean and holy. And idol worship entered into the Kaaba. By the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the Kaaba had become a center of shirk, where people used to make tawaf naked, where people used to make business, and where 360 idols surrounded it. Holy Prophet ﷺ, the master of the first and last, came to bring the Kaaba back to its purity. The Kaaba that had been built by Adam alayhi salam, that had been raised to the heavens in the time of Nuh alayhi salam, that had been restored and rebuilt by Ibrahim alayhi salam, was now in need of being purified and spiritually rebuilt upon its original foundation. Holy Prophet ﷺ, he accomplished that mission. He came to Mecca as a fatih, as a conqueror, and he tore down every symbol of ignorance and oppression that had made the Kaaba dirty. He did not break the Kaaba or change its shape or its design, but he broke the dirty system around the Kaaba and replaced it with a divine nizam, a kingdom of haqq and a khilafat of justice. And by doing that, he brought that Kaaba back to the original station as it had been built by the angels and Adam alayhi salam. In these holy days of the Hajj, we should sit and reflect about the reality of the house of Allah and what it represents. We are living in the Akhir Zaman, and we are seeing that in our time we are living through incidents that the Holy Prophet ﷺ lived through. Because he said, Islam began as something strange and it will return to being strange. So good news to the strangers. We are living in Gharib in very strange days, and we are finding that we have been blessed to live in a time where the sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the sunnah of cleaning the house of Allah has been revived. The symbol of the Fatih of this land, Ayasofya, was founded as a masjid in the heavens. And it was originally constructed not by a priest or a monk, but by the Prophet King Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salam. Understand that its originality was found inside the heavens. Here Allah is saying that when the Holy Prophet ﷺ went to Miraj, he saw a beautiful masjid built from precious stones and gold and silver. And when Holy Prophet ﷺ asked Jibreel ﷺ about this building, Hazrat Jibreel said that this was a maqam created for the ummah called Jamiat al-Qadir. Jibreel ﷺ said that the reflection of this building on the earth was called Jamiat al-Saghir, which was located in the city of Constantinople. Holy Prophet ﷺ was informed in the Miraj that whoever prayed 2 rakats in this masjid, in the Ayasofya, will be entered into paradise and would receive 70 rakat prayers reward. And that whoever worshipped for 40 days in Ayasofya would be given the reward of 4 prophets. Hazrat Adam, Hazrat Nuh, Hazrat Ibrahim, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ himself. When Holy Prophet ﷺ returned to the earth, he told his Sahabi about this beautiful heavenly building, and they prayed to enter that masjid and pray there before they died. Alhamdulillah that this dua was accepted from our Sultan, Hazrat Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, the spiritual Sultan of Istanbul. So the building of this heavenly reflection was done first by Sulaiman alayhi salam. Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam built that Ayasofya as a place of ibadat and muhabbat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it stayed according to that foundation during his time. But as the generations passed, it fell into the hands of those who worship idols and made shirk and became a center of every ignorance and jahil action, just like the Kaaba. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through his servant Hizr alayhi salam, inspired those who called themselves the followers of Isa alayhi salam to turn that house into a place of worship again. The Byzantine emperor, who himself believed in Isa alayhi salam as a prophet, not as an ilah, received inspiration from Hazrat Hizr and raised up that Ayasofya. It was a reflection of a building in paradise, built with the inspiration of Hazrat Hizr, with the intention of being a place of worship. But once again, that fell into the hands of those that violated the holiness of the building. And so rather than being a masjid of Allah, it became a temple to the ego and to the worst parts of human desires, where all types of dirtiness and evil they were committed. But then 600 years ago, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a grandson of the Holy Prophet ﷺ to fulfill the sunnah of his grandfathers and to once again re-establish the house of Allah. Sultan Mehmed Fatih Khan, Jannat Mekan, marched into Constantinople under the flag of Rasulullah ﷺ, fulfilling the hadith of his holy grandfather. And upon entering that holy house, he prayed 2 rakats to the Lord of the heavens and the earth, Allah Jalla wa'ala, and therefore brought it back to its heavenly originality. This is a reflection of the condition of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the Kaaba Sharif. This is a lesson for us, for Akhir Zaman. And now, in these strange times of Akhir Zaman, we are living a new chapter in this history. After Fatih Sultan, After the ruling of generations of heroic Ghazi sultans and Khalifas, this masjid of Allah was once again closed. And rather than being a masjid or a church or a temple or a place of worship, it became a nothing. It became a tribute to the ego, a place where man could only go to worship himself, to praise himself, to love himself. It became a museum, a place where the spirit of Ayasofya was frozen and dead, rather than being alive and living. But mashallah, in these days, some brave and righteous leaders came who took the correct decision and the correct steps to return that building to a place of worship. So now, that building has once again become a place where Muslims can read the Quran, can call the Azan al-Muhammadi, can make qiyam, can make ruku, can make sajda, and we see that the Muslims are running to fill that masjid all day and all night, crying out the takbir of Allahu Akbar. Once again, filling the space with the praises of Allah and the salawats of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. We see that the Ayasofya is no longer dead inside, but has become alive with the pumping of hearts of a nation that has resurrected the spirits of the Ottoman grandfathers inside themselves through the opening of that Ayasofya. Believers are the people who think. The Kaaba Sharif is a building, and it is also a symbol. The Ayasofya is a building, and it is a symbol. When Holy Prophet ﷺ purified the Kaaba, he did not focus on the building of the Kaaba, rather he focused now on building a spiritual system through the symbol of that Kaaba that will bring justice and rahmat to the whole world. The building of that system was far more important than the building of the Kaaba itself. This is why Holy Prophet ﷺ once looked at the Kaaba and said, "How great are you? How great is your holiness." Yet, the believer has greater holiness to Allah than you. Verily, Allah made you holy once, but He made the believer holy in three ways: in his life, in his wealth, and to not assume evil about him. When the Kaaba was brought back to purity, then the effect of that spiritual conquest went to all of mankind. And Holy Prophet ﷺ spent his life and his blood building the foundations of a civilization that would preserve and honor the holiness of Hazreti Insan. Just as it was the duty of the Holy Prophet ﷺ to make the earthly Kaaba pure, like the heavenly Kaaba, it was also his duty to return Hazreti Insan to his heavenly fitrah while they were living on earth. That is the secret of Islam. That is the work of prophets. And this work was inherited by Fatih Sultan. He did not just turn the building of Ayasofya with its dome and its pillars into a jami. He did not just put calligraphy of Allah, Muhammad, Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman, Ali, Hassan, Hussein in the masjid and say this was enough. He transformed the city itself. And he transformed the lands of Islam itself. He transformed Constantinople into Islambol, the place where Islam was great. He made a city that was a center of the greatest civilization known to mankind, which was built on the prophetic foundations that were laid by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. By making it Islambol, he made it a place where every single person could seek justice, could seek rahmat, could seek his human honor in the shade of the Sultanate and the Khilafat. That is the spiritual conquest of Islam. And that is far more important than the transformation of any building. That is the spiritual conquest that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted to Fatih Sultan. That even Yawad Sultan Hazrat Bari had to pass in order for Fatih Sultan Hazrat Bari to achieve that conquest. Fatih Sultan took Istanbul in order to bring a new civilization that would bring man to its original state, to return man to the fitrah of Hazreti Insan. And his Ottoman descendants continued that. Ayasofya is open again. But are we returning honor to Hazreti Insan? Are we returning honor to mankind? What about our Muslim brothers and sisters whose honor is being destroyed day and night? What about our Muslim brothers who are arrested in the middle of the night, who have their beards shaved and are put into cold trains and separated from their families, not knowing if they're going to live or die? What about our Muslim sisters who are forced to take kafir men under penalty of death? What about our Muslim children who are being separated from their parents, who are being taught to forget about Islam, who are becoming slaves for the desires of the kafir tyrants? What about our Muslim places and lands? What about our jamis? What about our tombs? We can have Ayasofya. We can have the Kaaba. We can have all the temples and all the churches to turn to become jamis. But if we cannot preserve and raise the honor of the Muslims, then what good are these buildings? What good is it to pray 2 rakahs in Ayasofya when we cannot give our hands to those that are 3 times more holy than the Kaaba, the innocent believers? There is only one way that honor will come back to the Muslims. That one way it is through the return of the house of Osman. That one way it is through the return of the Sultan. That one way, it is what the Holy Prophet ﷺ said would happen, the return of the Khilafat after a time of biting tyranny. Until that happens, every happiness that we have will be colored by the knowledge that our brothers and sisters are suffering, and we can do nothing about it. Until the Ahlul Adalat return, until the Divine Nizam returns, until the grandsons of Fatih Sultan return, until the Ottomans return, we will not have our honor back. These are the days of Hajj. This is the day of Qurban. Inshallah Rahman, when we look at the animals that are going to be cut, we should remember the innocent ones. We should remember Hazrat Ismail. We should remember Hazrat Hussein. We should remember those who are dying without having committed any sin or any mistake, and we should give our hearts to them. We should wake our hearts up to burn with the desire to bring justice to them. We should wake our spirit up to bring the Osmanli way back to this world, to bring the honor back to mankind. In this holy land, in these holy days, we are making intention to Allah, despite our weakness, to bring back the Ottomans. And we are making intention to be with Hazrat Mahdi alayhi salam, to raise up the Haqq and to bring down the Batil. On the same toprak, on the same land, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his intention from Osman Ghazi and Orhan Ghazi. Ya Rabbi, for their sake, accept this intention from us as well. Amen.
Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber, La ilahe illallah, Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber, Walillahi. Amin. Estağfurullah, estağfurullah, la ilahe illallah. La ilahe illallah. الفاتحة. آمين.